Than any ocean, more powerful than any dictator or tyrant. It gives hope. In this nation, we believe in honesty, decency, treating everyone with respect, giving everyone a fair shot, leaving nobody behind, giving hate no safe harbor, leading by the power of our example, not by the example of our power. That's allowed us to stand as a beacon to the world, being part of something bigger than ourselves. It's a code. It's a uniquely American code. The most powerful idea in the history of the world. The American creed, that we're all created equal, I think beats in the heart of the people of this country.
This time next year, I hope the virus is in check and the American spirit is unleashed, and that we're not fearing, but hoping again.
Unity in our country. This is what I hope to see next year.
I hope we've chosen community over chaos. We've chosen unity over division. And we've chosen love over hate.
I believe that America will have faced its darkest moment and will have come out better.
America will be coming together, not splintering apart.
No more pain.
This time next year, I hope that we will have a government that is accountable to us, that guarantees health care as a human right.
The promise of America will be restored for all our communities, all our families, for all of us. And when I say all of us, quiero decir todas nuestras familias.
I am confident that this time next year, we will have a president who provides this country with real leadership, not just tweets.
This time next year, I hope we are listening less to the Russians and more to Dr. Fauci.
I hope we all get back to work.
There'll be 2 Americans who I will be happy to say are unemployed, Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump.
This time next year, I hope that all Americans, whether they are Democrats or independents or Republicans, will be proud of their president, will be proud of their vice president.
And that our recovery is truly people up, families up, and communities up.
That people believe they have a government that is working for them, that's out there every day doing its best for them.
I want to see a president of the United States who can look a trans woman in the eye and tell her her rights are worth protecting.
I hope America has a president who champions the rights of all young women and girls.
This time next year, I want a president who understands what military families need.
Who cares about the rights and lives of disabled people.
We'll care about our environment again.
We'll pass comprehensive immigration reform.
I hope we have a president who honors treaty rights and tribal sovereignty.
A year from now, I want to see the kids playing on the playground.
I take pride in my job and helping our customers. But next year, I want to do it without wearing a mask or gloves.
I hope that we are all celebrating landmark legislation that the Biden-Harris administration have shepherded through Congress and signed into law.
This time next year, parents will again be able to look forward to the day where we can send our children to school without fear of gun violence.
This time next year.
This time next year.
This time next year.
I hope that this country realizes that we have in fact reclaimed the soul of America.
This time next year, I hope and pray that America will have restored democracy to the world.
We recommit ourselves to come together, one nation, under God.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time next year, I want to see Joe Biden in the Oval Office.
America, I'm Andrew Yang. You might know me as the guy who ran for president talking about math and the future. Unfortunately for all of us, that future is now. The pandemic has accelerated everything. If you're like me and my wife Evelyn, you don't know if your child's school is going to reopen this fall. 72% of Americans believe that this is the worst time we've ever experienced. And 42% of the jobs that have been lost, millions of jobs, will never return. We are in a deep, dark hole, and we need leaders who will help us dig out. I know many politicians promise and then fail to deliver. If you voted for Trump or didn't vote at all back in 2016, I get it. Many of us have gotten tired of our leaders seeming far removed from our everyday lives, and we despair that our government will ever rise to the challenges of our time. But we must give this country, our country, a chance to recover. And recovery is only possible with a change of leadership and new ideas. Bold and innovative policies that will get help into your hands in the midst of this crisis are now possible. But we need your help to turn the page for our country in 75 days. We are here tonight to celebrate Joe Biden's nomination as the Democratic candidate for president. I have gotten to know both Joe and Kamala on the trail over the past year. The way you really get to know a person when the cameras are off, the crowds are gone, it's just you and them. They're real people. They understand the problems we face. They are parents and patriots who want the best for us and our country. And if we give them the chance, they will fight for us and our families every single day. Our future is now, and it is daunting. But I ask you tonight to join me to help Joe and Kamala fight for the promise of America, turn the page for our country, and lead us forward to a future we'll actually be proud to leave to our children. And now I'd like to turn it over to a great Democrat who will be with us throughout the evening. Between the two of us, we have 11 Emmys. How's that for math? One of my favorite actresses, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Hey, Julia.
Hi, Andrew. It's so glad to see you. So what did you think about Kamala Harris's speech last night?
It was tremendous. I was so happy for her.
I know, me too. She was fabulous. I cannot wait to see her debate our current vice president, Mika Pints. Or, is it Paints?
It's pronounced Ponce, I believe.
Oh, some kind of weird foreign name?
Yeah, not very American sounding.
Yeah, that's what people are saying. Strongly. Well, thank you, Andrew. And please give my regards to the gang.
I will. They're right in the next room. Have a great night, Julia.
Thank you so much. Good evening, America, and welcome to the fourth night of the 2020 Democratic National Convention, Uniting America. Okay, these last few nights have been going so well, we've decided to add a fifth night where we will just play Michelle Obama's speech on a loop. I first met Joe Biden when I was doing my show, Veep. I played the vice president, and he was, in fact, the vice president, and we hit it off immediately. Soon after, I was asked to be on the cover of a magazine. Remember those? And I was so excited. It was like, oh, what's it going to be? People or Vogue or Rolling Stone? Well, it turns out it was for Arrive, the official onboard magazine of Amtrak, which nobody ever reads, even though it's free. And the day it came out, my phone rang, and it was the vice president telling me he loved the cover and the whole article, and that it was one of the best issues of Arrive he had ever read. And that is just one of the many reasons that I wanted to be here tonight for Joe. And to remind you that Joe Biden not only knows how to read, but also he reads everything. You know, I am no policy expert, and I certainly don't pretend to be one, but I have a gut feeling about fairness and what's right, and that is why I am so excited that just in a little while we're going to hear from Joe Biden about his plans for America. Plans for a strong economy that helps working people and small businesses, not just billionaires, and plans to raise the wages for the nurses and teachers and grocery workers that are getting us through this crisis. God love them. So, how can you help Joe? It's super simple. Vote. Right now, you can text VOTE to 30330 to learn about all of your voting options and make the best plan for how to vote in your community, wherever you are. An easy way to remember 30330 is that's the year Donald Trump will finally release his tax returns. If we all vote, there is nothing Facebook, Fox News, and Vladimir Putin can do to stop us. But first, let's reaffirm the all-American values that our party and Joe Biden stand for.
Do it while you're smiling, okay?
All right, ready? And action.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we've watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Good evening. I'm Sister Simone Campbell, Executive Director of Network and leader of Moms on the Bus. Tonight marks an important next chapter in our story of who we will become as a nation. So I speak to you with a sense of urgency and hope, knowing the difficult work ahead, but grounded in my faith. The very first paragraph of the scripture that informs the three Abrahamic traditions tells us the divine spirit breathed over the waters of chaos and brought forth a new creation. Encouraged by this promise that a new creation can come from chaos, let us pray. O divine spirit, during the weeks and months ahead, stir our hearts and minds that we might fight for a vision that is worthy of you and your call to honor the dignity of all of your creation. A vision of who we are as a people grounded in community and care for all, especially the most marginalized. A vision that cares for our earth and heals the planet. A vision that ends structural racism, bigotry, and sexism so rife now in our nation and in our history. A vision that ensures hungry people are fed, children are nourished, immigrants are welcomed. O Spirit, breathe in us and our leaders a new resolve that, committed to this new American promise, we will work together to build a national community grounded in healing, fearlessly based on truth, and living out of a sense of shared responsibility. In the name of all that is holy, O Spirit, bring out of this time of global and national chaos a new creation, a new community that can, with your help, realize this new promise that we affirm tonight. And so, with profound hope, let we, the people, say, Amen.
Thank you, Sister Simone. People of faith have long led change, from abolition and women's suffrage to the labor movement and the struggle for civil rights. Joe Biden will continue that progressive march towards justice. Inspired by respect for the dignity of all people, people Joe believes were made in the image of God. Joe learned that from his parents and the nuns and priests right here in Delaware who taught him and inspired in him a passion for justice. I'm Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, and I want to tell you about my friend Joe Biden. His faith is strong, and it's personal and private. For Joe, faith isn't a prop or a political tool. I've known Joe about 30 years, and I've seen his faith in action. Joe knows the power of prayer, and I've seen him in moments of joy and triumph, of loss and despair, turn to God for strength. Joe's comforted me in my toughest moments, as he has so many others. I'll never forget how Joe took the time to offer me words of comfort as my father lay in hospice. Time and again, I've seen him stop everything and listen, really listen, to someone who needs a shoulder to cry on or a partner in prayer. That compassion, that empathy is part of his character. More than anything, Joe's a man of faith and conscience. He'll be a president for Americans of all faiths, as well as people of conscience who practice no particular faith. Joe's faith is really about our future, about a world with less suffering and more justice, where we're better stewards of creation, where we have a more just immigration policy, and where we call out and confront the original sins of this nation, the sins of slavery and racism. Joe knows these are central issues in this election, and for him, they're rooted in faith. Joe knows that it's faith that sustains so many ordinary Americans who do extraordinary things. Nurses who brave infection, firefighters who run into burning buildings, teachers working overtime, especially now. They all deserve a servant leader who knows the dignity of work, who sees them, respects them, fights for them. We need a president who brings people of all faiths together to tackle our challenges, rebuild our country, and restore our humanity. Someone who knows we're called to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with our God. Joe Biden will be that president. Joe's always known this race is a battle for the soul of our country, and he's right. Joe believes. He believes in both the greatness and the goodness of this country. He believes in us and in what we can do together.
My question is, what is your faith, and how would you use your faith in making decisions for our nation?
Well, Reverend, I kind of know what it's like to lose family. And my heart goes out to you. As you may remember, after Barack and Michelle and I were there, and my family, I came back on that Sunday, the regular service, because I had just lost my son. And I wanted some hope, because what you all did was astounding. I don't know if you all know this. All those who died and were killed by this white supremacist, they forgave him. They forgave him. The ultimate act of Christian charity, they forgave him. And you know, Reverend, I'm not proselytizing. I happen to be a practicing Catholic. But I went back to the church because I found, particularly, the black church. In this case, it was an AME. It was not an Episcopal church. I found that there's that famous phrase from Kierkegaard, faith sees best in the dark. I find the one thing it gives me, and I'm not trying to proselytize, I'm not trying to convince you to share my religious views. But for me, it's important because it gives me some reason to have hope and purpose.
Just remember, Joe Biden goes to church so regularly that he doesn't even need tear gas and a bunch of federalized troops to help him get there. No one fought harder for your right to vote than John Lewis. Here to speak about him and his legacy, we have one of our great mayors, Atlanta's Keisha Lance Bottoms. Mayor Bottoms, hello. I know that you're recovering from the coronavirus. How are you feeling?
Well, good evening. I feel really good. Thank you for asking. My husband, on the other hand, is still having many of the lingering side effects that people talk about, but all in all, our family's doing great.
Well, I'm glad to hear it, but boy, I think a lot of Americans are going to be dealing with that for a long time. Hey, Mayor, I wanted to ask you something. Is Atlanta ready for Election Day?
We will be ready, and we are going to do everything that we can to make sure that voting goes smoothly. We are encouraging people, if you can vote early in your state, to please do so. Early vote during the early vote.
Perfect. Excellent advice. Over 40 states now allow some form of early voting. Okay, stay safe, Mayor, and I turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Julia, and good evening. I'm Keisha Lance Bottoms, a mother of 4, and mayor of Atlanta, Georgia. cradle of the civil rights movement, and like so many other cities, a place where the struggle for human dignity continues. I'm proud to have grown up in this city, educated in its public schools, and blessed to have known our hometown heroes like Dr. Joseph Lowry, Dr. C.T. Vivian, and our teacher, our friend, our conscience, our congressman, John Lewis. He walked gently amongst us, not as a distant icon, but as a God-fearing man who did what he could to fulfill the as yet unfulfilled promise of America. People often think that they can't make a difference, like our civil rights icons. But every person in the movement mattered. Those who made the sandwiches, swept the church floors, stuffed the envelopes. They too changed America, and so can we. The baton has now been passed to each of us. We've cried out for justice. We have gathered in our streets to demand change. And now we must pass on the gift John Lewis sacrificed to give us. We must register and we must vote. In his parting essay written to us, Congressman Lewis expressed his pride in the activism that has swept our country. And he reminded us that if we fail to exercise our right to vote, we can lose it. There are those who are disgracefully using this pandemic to spread misinformation and interfere with voting, forcing many in 2020 to still risk their lives to exercise their sacred right to vote. A right that has already been paid for with the blood, sweat, tears, and lives of so many. So let's stand up for our children, our children's children, and for this great democracy that our ancestors worked to build, and let's vote. And let's organize to get others to vote with us. You can help make this happen by texting VOTE to 30330. We know how important it is that we elect real leaders like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, people of honor and integrity who hold justice close to their hearts and believe that the lives of my 4 Black children matter. In the words of womanist poet Audre Lorde, your silence will not protect you. Congressman Lewis would not be silenced, and neither can we. We cannot wait for some other time, some other place, some other heroes. We must be the heroes of our generation because we too are America. Our votes can be our voice.
There's something deep down within me, moving me, that I could no longer be satisfied or go along with an evil system.
Life was extremely dangerous when we were growing up. John Lewis had the respect of everybody because he was the one who demonstrated the most courage. He'd been beaten and knocked down and get up and go to find another battle. John was focused on ending voter suppression, and it wasn't that he was a great orator, it's that he was a great spirit. The power of spirituality and humility, and the willingness to suffer rather than to inflict suffering.
One of the things that John has taught us is that you may have to sacrifice, but if you're sacrificing for a cause, something bigger than you, and you really believe in it, then you will have people following you.
Amen. We do not get meaningful legislation out of this Congress. We are marching through the streets of Jackson, through the streets of Danville, through the streets of Cambridge, through the streets of
I think he is the singular figure that has tried to carry out the work of our nonviolent campaigns into the halls of Congress.
From day one, John Lewis was a role model for the members of Congress, whether they were freshmen or here a long time, because he brought with him a kind of heft, a weightiness of purpose.
I got arrested a few times during the 60s. 40 times. And since I've been in Congress, another 5 times. The means by which we struggle must be consistent with the end we seek.
Someone who has navigated thorny issues of policy, not by castigating alone, but by also encouraging people to be better than they think they can be.
Today we are considering a fair housing measure which not only protects our nation's minorities, but it protects the needs of those with disabilities and families with children. How long do we have to wait before we decide to ban assault weapons? We have another opportunity to bring more of our citizens into political participation. I have on my marching shoes. That's right. I'm fired up. I'm ready to march.
And all of these decades later, while he and others of his generation achieved much, we're still fighting against police brutality and fighting for our voting rights. And so we best honor him by continuing to fight the good fights that he fought, by staying in good trouble.
Together, let's fight. Fight for what's right. No matter how long or how dark the night.
We will create a beloved community. We will redeem the soul of America. As a nation and as a people, we will get there.
Climb to the mountain top, and one day we'll win together. One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure. We will be sure. Oh, glory. 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 Oh, glory.
Hands to the heavens, no man, no weapon formed against. Yes, glory is destined. Every day women and men become legends. Sins that go against our skin become blessings. The movement is a rhythm to us. Freedom is like religion to us. Justice is juxtaposition in us. Justice for all, just ain't specific enough. One son died, his spirit is revisiting us. True and living in us. Resistance is us. That's why Rosa sat on the bus. That's why we walk through America with our hands up. When it go down, we woman and man up. They say stay down, and we stand up. Shots we on the ground, the camera panned up. King pointed to the mountaintop, and we ran up.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours. Oh, one day. We will be sure. We will be sure. Oh, glory. Now the war is not over. Victory isn't won. We will fight on to the finish. And when it's all done, we'll cry glory. We'll cry
Salmons now for every man, woman, and child. Even Jesus got his crown in front of a crowd. They march with the torch, we gon' run with it now. Never look back, we done gone hundreds of miles. From dark roads, heroes, to become a hero. Facing the League of Justice, power was the people. Enemy is lethal, when king became regal. Saw the face of Jim Crow under a ball ego. The biggest weapon is to stay peaceful. We sing, our music is the cuts that we bleed through. Somewhere in a dream we had an epiphany. Now we right the wrongs in history. No one can win a war individually. It take the wisdom of the elders, young people's energy. Welcome to the story we call victory. The coming of the Lord, my eyes have seen the glory.
one day when the glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours. Oh, one day when the war is won, we will be sure.
So sure,
we will be sure.
So sure to the world. God be the
When it's all said and done, we'll cry glory,
Wow, that was so beautiful, John and Common. Wow. Joe Biden shares John Lewis's belief that every vote matters. Personally, I plan to follow the example of 6 current cabinet members, Vice President Pence, and President Trump himself, and vote by mail. To find out everything you need to know about mail-in ballots, your polling place, or even just, am I registered? Text VOTE to 30330. 30330. That would be the president's golf score if he didn't cheat. Okay, look.
We're going to end right there on this note pertaining to what she just said. This will be in 2 different parts on this Thursday night. I want to save the best for last pertaining to Mr. Biden being able to actually speak to his viewers and give us his insight, the vision of where we are to go as a people, as a nation, as a great nation into the future of tomorrow. I want to leave this with being part 1 of this tremendous convention, national convention of this movement that has been breathing life into the ideals of young men and women of prospering and being greater for the cause of a better tomorrow. We'll come back with part 2 whenever Mr. Biden gets ready to speak and touching off on some of the highlights of this evening. Thanks again. Coming from the Windmill Ministries here at 291 Thompson Road, Sharon, Tennessee, zip code 38255. We want to thank you and embrace this particular body because we feel like that this is the body that has the future of carrying us over the threshold into tomorrow for the betterment of not just us, but for the betterment of those who have yet to exert their energy into this society, as far as our children and our children's children. Thanks again, and as we end on every note, good luck to all of us, and yes, shalom in the Hebrew, which means peace.